So I want to talk about measuring and improving communication activities today. But let me introduce myself a bit first. So since I graduated from a university where I got my degree in life science in 2002, I have been in science communication and public relation for a little bit more than 20 years, time flies. And I first worked with a medical publisher in Tokyo from 2002, but I soon moved to a research institution in Japan, Riken, where I worked as a science communicator for more than 10 years. And then in 2016, I moved to Hokkaido University, where I joined its international public relations team. And from last year, I'm in the PR and communications division with these five other people and 4 student interns. And at Riken, which is a fantastic institution, by the way, I engaged in a wide range of communication activities like writing news articles, creating PR materials, or hosting events. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. And at that time, I actually didn't think about measuring or evaluating activities, since I think I had a clear idea about what I wanted to do. And so I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, whatever the results would be. So I enjoyed it a lot. And so even though I'm going to talk about the measuring and the evaluation, I want to emphasize that it is very important to have the room or the space where you can try your ideas freely without thinking too much about evaluation or measuring. But after several years, I think it actually took me 7 years or so before I started asking questions like, has this been really working? Or am I achieving my goals? Or what are the goals in the first place? So I got interested in measuring and evaluating our activities. So I think I have at least 3 reasons why I think I should measure. First, to see whether we are achieving our goals or not. Second, to get insights for continuous improvement. And third, to make our work feasible. So I think the first 2 reasons are very important, but the third is also important because some people outside the PR think that PR people are just playing around or they're just having fun. And that's partially true, but there are also some misunderstandings. So I think that we should make our work more visible to others, the members outside the team. So when measuring activities, I think it's important to consider what to measure, when to measure, how to measure, and with whom you share the result with. I think I cannot address all of these, but I will talk about some of these. So let me take our English press releases as an example. So in our team at Hokkaido University, Pinto, my colleague, is in charge of English press releases. And there are 4 steps. Write press releases first and distribute them to the media. And then measure the coverage. And finally, you share and evaluate the results. So for those who are not familiar with press releases, let me explain what embargo means. So embargo means it is before the publication of the paper. So if you send out the press release to the media before the embargo, it means the people in the media will have some time to prepare their own news articles before the publication of the paper so that they can publish their own stories on their news outlet as soon as the paper is published. And if it's post-embargo, it means you send out the press release after the paper was published. So people in the media prefer embargoed press releases so that they can have some time to prepare. So when I started measuring our press releases, I had two specific questions. One is how many English press releases should we make per year? And the second is how much effort should we put into making embargoed releases? So for Japanese institutions like us, it's not easy to make English press releases. It's time consuming and it takes a lot of effort to make English press releases. So I want to know the answer to those questions. So I think there are 4 measuring points: inputs, outputs, short-term outcomes, and long-term outcomes. And the outcomes are basically the same as the goals you want to achieve. And long-term outcomes are often difficult to measure. Things like reputation or increases in the number of staff or increases in the budget. Because these are pretty indirect from the output, it is difficult to measure. And if you like to know things like return on investment, you can also measure inputs like human resources, budget, time you put into press releases. But we only measure outputs and outcomes because these are the things we want to know. And these are relatively easy to measure. So as output, we measure the number of press releases, and as outcomes, short-term outcomes, we measure number of media coverage and potential readers, and we also measure altmetric score. Okay, so let me share some results of the measurement and some insights we can draw from those measurements. So this slide shows the number of press releases and the number of coverage over the past 7 years. So as you can see here, we publish around 60 English press releases every year. And you can see that the number has been decreasing a little bit over the years. And on the other hand, the number of media coverage has been increasing. And in some other analysis we've done, it showed that around 10% of total releases receive 80% of coverage. We are pretty surprised about this. So what does this mean? So it means if your goal is to increase the number of media coverage as much as possible, I think the number of presses you issue is not necessarily important. You can still increase the number of coverage while decreasing the number of press releases. So it means focus on newsworthy topics rather than bombarding with less important, less newsworthy press releases. So in this slide compares embargoed and post-embargoed press releases. So looking at these numbers, it clearly tells that embargoed releases have been more effective. So embargoed releases have been having more coverage comparing to the post-embargo releases. As you can see, these average numbers. So it is true that embargoed releases are a lot more effective. So I think it is worth putting more effort to making embargoed releases. So the next 2 slides shows the top 5 releases and bottom 5 releases in 2022. So these are the 5 releases that got the most coverage, most attention by the media and by the general public. So almost all of those 5 were embargoed releases, as you can see. And the next slide shows the bottom 5, the least popular press releases in 2022. So none of them were embargoed. And maybe you noticed something else as well. And I noticed the titles are a lot longer, right? So of course, there are many other factors involved in this, but I think it is important to keep the title simple. Okay, so from here, I'd like to take social media as another example. So Leah in our team is in charge of those English social media channels. And through these social media channels, we disseminate various topics, both research and non-research news topics. And we measure posts and reactions by users by measuring these metrics, like posts, the number of posts, the number of followers, impressions, engagements, and link clicks. So we measure those numbers monthly to see the trend in that month. But these numbers only show the general trend of the month. So we also do this analysis. So Leah, she uses Tableau, yeah, to visualize how many engagement each post received. And these colors show the type of the content. For example, the orange color means these are the campus scenery. And those green ones are about university news, while the blue is information about admission. So like this, you can see how many engagement you got for each post. So in addition to those monthly analysis, we also look at the user demography every half a year, like location, age group, sex, occupation, so that we can tell who are actually looking at our social media channels. Okay, so in my last slides, I'd like to talk about what we should be worried about when we measure our activities. Because I think that measuring is a double-edged sword. And so as I have shown, I think that measurement can be useful, but it can also be misleading or even harmful if you do it in a wrong way. And because especially when you measure your activities quantitatively, it's basically a simplification. And sometimes you oversimplify what you do. So as you quantify, you miss a lot of data. You lose a lot of data. So for example, I talked about English precises today, but I didn't talk about the content of those precises at all. So yes, there are oversimplification. And in the first place, there are things we cannot measure. There are measurable and unmeasurable. And I also think that it is very important to know who you should share the data with, because when you analyze and evaluate, I think it should be done in relation with the goal or objective you have. So you should share the data of those measurements with those who share the goal and objectives. So I came across this the other day, the Leiden Manifest for Research Metrics, and I thought this can be applied to evaluating science communication as well. So it says research evaluation has has become routine and often relies on metrics, but it is increasingly driven by data and not by expert judgment. As a result, the procedures that were designed to increase the quality of research are now threatening to damage the scientific system. So I kind of agree to this, and I'm afraid of the same thing can happen to measuring science communication activities. So it gives 10 points. The lady manifest gives 10 points. And I think the first two are especially important. So the first one is quantitative evaluation should support qualitative expert assessment. So quantitative evaluation is just a small part of evaluation. And the second is measure performance against the research missions of the institution, group, or researcher. This is, I think, what I just said. So it should be always with your goal and objectives when you evaluate. Okay, so this is the end of my talk. Thank you for your attention.